Yeah, entrepreneurs need to be really honest about that because
Hmm.
it's not sexy. It's amazing to control your time, but that also
Yeah,
means you control your time.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
And if it's some shit that ain't working right, then it
who you
usually
blaming?
traces back to you.
That's right. You didn't see that
Yeah.
email.
Hmm. Welcome to another episode of the Heavy on Brand podcast. And I feel like I say this with every episode that I intro, but it's the truth. I am really excited about this conversation that we're having today. I don't think my intro can do her justice, but we're gonna give it a shot anyway. I am happily and pleased to welcome Natalie Black to the show. She's the founder and CEO of Culture and Curate, a brand strategy and foresight consultancy that helps organizations prepare for disruption instead of reacting to it. With over 15 years of experience spanning wellness, pharma, fashion, beauty, agency, client side tech. She's a cultural strategist, part futurist, and fully committed to helping brands not just sell, but shape the future. She also released a new report or white paper called Signal and Shift, The Great Awakening, which unpacks the cultural rifts and psychological contradictions shaking our systems and rewriting the rules of brand relevance. Natalie, welcome to the damn show.
That was dope. Wow. Go around with me everywhere.
Just let
Thank
me know.
you.
You know I'm down. How you doing? How are you today?
Oh, wonderful. I'm happy to be here. I am happy. We always have great conversations. So it's about high time. It gets
I know,
recorded.
I know, I know. We when I was prepping for this episode, I was like, man, we every conversation that we've had, every time we get to the end of that convo, it's like we didn't have enough time, and so we keep creating more opportunities to have more conversations, and it's been really turning into some really cool stuff that I'm sure we'll get into.
Absolutely.
But before we get into all that, and before we get into the report that you recently released, which I think is a new playbook for how brands need to operate in general, I really want to learn more about your background. Like, how did you get into this space? Start with where you from, where you grew up. I want to know all that stuff.
Oh, you want to start from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm originally from New York.
Hmm.
I was born there, raised there, educated there, and the reason why I think that's so important because I think place has a profound impact on how you view the world,
Hmm.
how you think people move, and the things that impact your life, brands, whether it's organizations, things like that, how those things show up in your life and your
Hmm.
interpretation of them. So I always preface it that I am a New York transplant now living in Atlanta. And, I took my way down the eastern corridor, all the way down there and made pit stops along the way. So, again, I think that's important because
Yeah.
it colors, it gives contours to how I landed in my career,
Hmm.
where I'm at now. But that's that's the long and short of it. I started off in
Hmm.
fashion and beauty PR because, like I say, everybody, like as a little girl growing up, and growing up in the 80s and 90s, and coming of age around that
Hmm.
time in the early 2000s as well. Like every little girl wants to be in fashion and beauty, right?
Yeah.
And then fashion and beauty PR, and you happen to be
Hmm.
in the greatest city on the planet to do that. So I was doing all the things that I shouldn't have been doing, which is getting on the train, getting on the subway, and
Hmm.
uh, heading into Manhattan and trying to go to all the parties
Hmm.
and connect with all the people. It was also during the height of, like, when hip hop ruled the world, party hip hop ruled
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, the dawning of reality TV, and all these things that were when pop culture was at its apex.
Hmm.
That's what's like, I not only want to be a part of it, like behind the scenes. I never was interested in being um, in front of everything, but
Yeah.
just really wanted to understand the who, what, when, where, why, and where of
Hmm.
brands. Like,
Hmm.
how do you become a merchant of cool, right? And so I marched myself into a bunch of places again that I had no business being in. Lied about my age. you know,
Right.
back then it was like you can get a job, you just tell them, yeah, no, yeah, sure, I worked, and you were hired. So that's what I did. And I
Mm-hmm.
started off at Estee Lauder, which was, fantastic, learning everything from the retail side to the event side to uh, brand activation side. And then I decided to go to college and I went to
Mm-hmm.
UMass Amherst and just everything. I learned everything I could about marketing research, brands, brand
Mm-hmm.
activation, public relations, then the
Mm-hmm.
dawn of social media. So then it was digital PR. So I
Yeah.
worked on things like when Jennifer Lopez was at her height, and it was when she came out with Glow by Jennifer
Mm-hmm. I
Lopez
remember
and
that. Yeah.
Miami Glow, Jennifer Lopez. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we tap into this whole MySpace crowd? I was part of that. And
Yeah.
my shameful, I'm apologizing to everybody right now. I was part of the crew that bought uh, $200 plus jeans into the conversation. So I'm sorry, though I still do love my Citizens for Humanity and Seven for All Mankind jeans. But that was me, part of
Look at
not just
you. Oh,
yeah.
good. No judgment here.
So needless to say, I wanted to. I'm always curious and wondering
Mm-hmm.
what makes people tick. Why do we do the things we do? What makes brands decide what's going to be on, what isn't? Who do they partner
Mm-hmm.
with? And was just I wanted to learn something, move on, put it in practice. Learn
Mm-hmm.
something, move on, put it in practice. That's kind of defined my career.
Yeah.
So agency, corporate, big brands, small brands, startup, B2B, B2C. It
You've
really
done it all.
it's it's all different and all the same at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to put that in play for nearly every single industry because like let's do tech seems to be good, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just that. And decided to do that for every single industry except for tobacco and firearms. And stand on that, so it's been great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. So it sounds like at a very early age, you already had kind of a sense as to what space you were going to play in because of your attraction to fashion and being kind of in the hub of that energy. I don't hear that too often, especially when it comes to for me, like I kind of fell into like I understand why I'm
Yeah,
doing what I'm doing. It
yeah,
wasn't because I was necessarily interested in marketing
yeah.
at an early age. I had I was always interested in building things,
Hmm.
and that was the thing that kind of drew me to like anything that was I won't say technical, right, but anything that allowed me to collaborate with people. I think that's kind of like the team aspect plays into it as well, kind of connect the dots. Like marketing in my mind is connecting the dots in
Hmm.
many ways, and that's why I enjoy it so much.
Yep.
But I don't have the same experience that you did, right? From a standpoint of like knowing at a very early age, I'm tapping into my own just like passion and know that in some way this is going to turn into kind of a career for me. Like, did you understand that at the time or like
No, well, here's the thing.
mm,
Like I prefaced earlier, being an ADHD girly, I didn't know back then, when I was 10,
mm-hmm.
I just knew that I had a lot of interests. But the
Yeah.
interests were all, I would say, centered around behavior. Because
Mm,
here's the other thing. I did know from a young age, I do remember at age 10 reading the book Sybil.
mm-hmm.
Coincidentally was my grandmother's name, who
Word.
also struggled with schizophrenia.
Okay.
But I did know that I was so interested in psychology and
Mm,
uh, again, nature versus nurture. So I knew
mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also was interested in, the fluff, the fashion and beauty stuff. And,
Yeah.
I was in love with magazines and glossies. And so really, I think if I look back now, I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was interested in sociology, anthropology, just humans
Mm-hmm.
in general, and how
Mm-hmm.
humans like you build things, connect things, interpret things.
Mm-hmm.
How does culture move? Like, how do we go from living in caves to forming a written language to building a whole civil, like I wanted to know all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And how do we build significance? How do we decide what's important, what's not? And then as I was just chasing different things,
Mm-hmm.
was, oh, this is what it is. This is marketing. This is
Mm-hmm.
advertising. This is brand. And
Mm-hmm.
then um, one way to capture my interest is to challenge me in a sense. And the challenge for me is like, no, no, you don't belong here, or no, no, you can't do that, or no, no, you don't have enough experience yet. And so then
Mm-hmm.
now I'm a dog with a bone. So now I have to go get a PhD in it, right? Like with everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I started to hit walls when it came to brand, because I won't say marketing is easy to get into, but marketing needs a lot of, I would say, it needs fresh blood all the time,
It
right?
does.
Because
It does.
you need young people to keep you on top of what's coming out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it needs literal people because you burn through
Mm-hmm.
people so much. So there's
Mm-hmm.
always an influx in marketing. And then they started
Yeah.
teaching business schools, became a concentration. So I would say that it's easier to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you start talking about brand and strategy,
Mm-hmm.
now you have to be of a certain pedigree, and you have to be, ordained, worthy, have enough experience. And so when I started hitting um, roadblocks along the way,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, well, oh, you should stay in account, or oh no, you should stay in research, or no, then I was like, oh, okay, so this is where the sausage is made.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
need to I need to get in there. So I just started going. I didn't realize I was doing strategy when I was an
Yeah.
account. I was doing the things, pushing the paper and keeping the projects on track, which I hated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I then was talking to clients and pitching them ideas and saying, "Have you taken a look at this?" Because I don't think, I didn't realize I was doing strategy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep saying it, like I literally would just show up to meetings that I had no business being in, and looked at people like, you must have forgot to send me the email because I'm
Mm-hmm.
here. And that's how you begin to hear the conversations. You see the people who make the decisions and how they make the decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing is, like, some of them are very, very smart. A lot of them are not that much smarter than you.
Mm-mm.
So
At
you get
all.
at all. So then you go, okay, now I'm a strategist.
Yeah.
Well, what makes you a strategist? Because I strategize. What you think?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you start going and going and going, and then bam.
Yeah. Listen, I not to speak ill of any other profession, but from my experience in being in the marketing space and running an agency and being around other strategists, good marketers are probably some of the smartest people you'll be around.
Hmm.
Not only is there like the creative muscle that's always at play,
Yep.
but it's the ability to think up something, an idea, a concept, and then intimately understand how to get it done.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
understand, even taking it a step further, understanding the data implications, understanding the technology that's required, how everything needs to speak. In many situations, from what I've seen, like other industries are a lot more straightforward, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But there's always an influx of marketers and always an influx of creators. And I think because it's always seen as kind of the sexy, cool thing to do,
Yep.
it is some
Yep.
very difficult stuff to do
Absolutely. I 100% agree. You're
because you have
absolutely
to. I love what you're saying about just understanding the psychology. You understand behavior. You understand what people connect with. You have to understand culture, the nuances around that, and
right. Hmm.
then put that in something that's relevant to the people that are trying to buy something from you, or that you're trying to get to buy something from you. Like it's a very intentional and in many ways spiritual exercise
Hmm.
to take a company and a brand through, or even just to even have to do it for yourself, and then to have to take a step back and then say, especially with someone like you and with your background, you've touched pharma, tech, fashion. There isn't an industry that you really haven't played in, but you know how to move the needle in every area, and you can understand the nuances that exist within each of those industries. You can't do that if you are not sharp. You just can't. You really
I,
can't.
I was, you know what? You're right. And I would say that sharpness is 100% curiosity. You know,
Mm,
of course, there's an intellectual aptitude with any, I think, any career, right? And
mm-hmm,
there's this knowledge, skills, all those things, right? But skill can be taught. You can
mm-hmm.
learn that over time. And then skills, as we see now, even with like, the dawn of AI, like
Yeah.
skills get reskilled all the time. So
Mm-hmm,
you just kind of stay curious to learn that stuff. But I think that I think you bring up a really fine point that some of the best marketers are generalists and specialists all at the same time, because it's
mm-hmm.
like you've got to go in, you got to go deep, and you got to come out, and then you got to look broad.
Yeah.
In some, T-shaped is what a lot of
Mm-hmm,
folks call that, right? Whether you're a
mm-hmm,
T-shaped strategist, marketer, whatever the case may be. But I will say that I think the reason why it looks so sexy and it's so hard to really break through in an impactful role in marketing
mm-hmm,
is because you think about other careers where things are tangible, right?
mm-hmm,
Like you want to be an engineer, or you're in a health profession,
mm-hmm.
all need incredible amounts of intellectual smarts and things like
Sure.
that. So I'm not
Yep.
discrediting them at all, but there's stuff, the body, you can see the body, right?
Mm-hmm,
And we know that this is going to work. The heart works like this because that's how the heart works. And we work
mm-hmm.
backwards, right? When it's not working like that, then we figure out why that is.
Yeah.
But with marketing, comms, brand, it's like how you start with a concept and then you
Every
have
time.
the most unpredictable factor, which is human beings, incidentally.
Mm-hmm.
So now I built something, I got a concept,
Right.
right? And that's turning into a product or service.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got to convince you.
I gotta
I got
sell
to
you on it.
gaslight you into
Right.
why this is the
Gotta,
most amazing thing. you know?
yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah, it's like I
And
gotta
then,
convince you that this is the thing that you've been missing, and if you don't buy it, your life is ruined.
right, exactly. Like, that is the biggest mind fuck ever.
Yeah.
Like, you don't got these socks.
Right.
It's like, you, and you apply that to anything, even and then
Mhm,
if you get into the nuances of B2B, B2C, like which marketers will tell you all the time, oh, it's different. It's not, because humans
mhm.
are involved.
Yep.
So it's, and so not to put another segue in here, but that is the reason why is like brands need to really understand human behavior, not just from the standpoint of let me hack it so I can get you to convert to buy. Like
Mhm.
we're now fully fledged. We're all consumers because you
Yeah.
turned us into one MTV, you turned us into one P&G,
Yep.
Coca-Cola. Like we're all consumers. Um, we are now getting to the point where we must explore emotions,
Mm,
even the messy ones. We need to
mhm,
explore go a layer or two deeper. Like, what is the motivating factor?
mhm,
Because then you can make the harder connections, and then we can be in, I would say, in relationship and in fellowship, right, with a brand. Because I will tell you that as I'm a makeup junkie, obviously I
mhm,
start off in makeup, but
mhm.
love makeup. You can't tell me to choose one color of red. I have 12 of them from different brands, and they all mean something different to me, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
poke into that meaning. It's not just because some beautiful model put it on. It is
Yeah.
everything has a story, everything has a meaning,
Yeah.
everything has a code.
Yeah.
And brands, traditional marketing is like right up here,
Mhm. Yep.
wear this because it makes you sexy, look, but
Mhm.
it's not that at all.
Yeah. No, it's not. Is that, and I don't want to make an assumption here, but I'm curious to know because you have a ton of experience in corporate. Like you've done stuff with Estee Lauder, like you mentioned, right? You've done
Mhm,
stuff with UPS, I saw. But now you're doing your own thing. And you've been doing it for quite some time.
mhm,
And part of when I see people who have an extensive corporate background and they go out and they start their own thing, there's a lot that comes with that, in my opinion. And it's usually rooted in one, you want your own independence and freedom, financial freedom, whatever
mhm,
that looks like. But then there's also a deep desire to have more of an impact than what you can have by working internally or working for a corporation or whatever it may be. I'm curious to know what was your inspiration around starting your business, starting your firm?
So I did corporate and then I went
Mm-hmm.
agency because agency is more
Mm-hmm.
sexy,
Yeah.
but agency is tumultuous,
Mm-hmm.
corporate is stable, and
Mm-hmm.
then then you want to work for the sexy corporate brands. So Coca-Cola, Xerox, Google, Motorola. You want to work for the sexy brands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm ADHD, so I want to do all the things all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there is also, how can I say this without it sounding terrible? Because I there are some amazing, I've worked with some amazing corporate comms, brand, and marketers,
Mm-hmm.
strategists. I work with some amazing folks. After a while, though, I think when
Mm-hmm.
you're working for a huge apparatus, it becomes harder to see your impact on the work. It gets
Yeah.
harder to turn the ship, if I may use a corporate
Mm-hmm.
term. It
Mm-hmm.
just, you get drowned in the mundane. And
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
because of how my brain is wired, I actually do terrible work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could do the same thing every day in a corporate job, and as long as you hit those KPIs, you're good, right? You're golden.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and because I'm not being challenged, or because the work is not necessarily interesting to me, it like I do terrible, terrible work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
there's that aspect. Yes, I wanted
I'm
to
so
control
with you
my
there.
time. It's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good at, and I
Yeah.
know what I'm not good at. And it needs to be, I'm always good at the hard stuff. I'm really good at the hard stuff. And not because I'm superhuman intelligent.
Yeah.
It's just how my brain is wired.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to make toast. You need to check the instructions every single time. Like put it in and turn
Right.
it on.
Right.
So, but also too, I was a mom. Well, I am a mom. I
Mm-hmm.
was not,
Mm-hmm.
but I was a new mom,
Yeah.
and I got sick of my career, or the people who were say in control of my career. I got sick of them telling me to choose.
Mm.
And I also got sick of, you can have it all. Like, neither one is true.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bargain for time with my children and time with my job, because
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't be an either or situation. There's a way to find integration at different
Mm-hmm.
levels. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's just no way. Like, if you want to move forward in corporate, you have to slit your wrists, right?
Yeah.
And I did that for a
Yeah.
little bit, but didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel good, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you slit your wrists, and you hope and you pray that they notice that you slit your wrists, and they
Mm-hmm.
deem you worthy and move you up. Um, I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to be in
Yeah.
control of my time, and I wanted to work how I wanted to work when I wanted to work it, whether that was
Mm-hmm.
on a soccer field with my kids,
Yep.
or sitting at a desk. Like, as long as I get the work done and it's great work and I'm available, it shouldn't be dictated. This is before the pandemic and the dawn
Yeah.
of remote work.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I wanted to do cool shit.
Yeah.
So left, and I was like, in true Natalie fashion, I was like, screw it, I quit. It's a Jerry Maguire moment, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna know my name. I'm leaving. Like,
You
I'm
just
coming for
wait.
all your
Ah.
clients.
Yeah.
Exactly. you know, Never ran a business in my entire life. Come from a family of entrepreneurs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, just was like, I could do this better. So
Mm-hmm.
I quit. And for 3 months, I laid on my couch depressed, because I didn't realize the structure that working in a system like
Yeah.
corporate or agency,
Yeah.
anything working in a system, provides, how much it controls your life. And
Mm-hmm.
so now the buck stops with you,
Yeah.
beginning, middle, and end, and not knowing how to transition to that. And I
It's
wish
an
more,
adjustment.
yeah, entrepreneurs need to be really honest about that, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not sexy. It's amazing to control your time, but that also
Yeah.
means you control your time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
And if it's some shit that ain't working right, then
who you
usually
looking
traces back to you.
That's right. You didn't see that
Yeah.
email.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? And so that is a really harsh reality to adjust to. So once
Hmm.
you get over that, you adjust, and then you realize, oh, okay, there's dealing with people and managing people.
Yeah.
There's business development, which is a whole nother beast, right? Because if you're
Hmm.
just used to working and doing work, now you got to
Hmm.
be on and you got to do the work and you got to find the work,
Gotta do
right?
both.
And that requires a whole different skill set that you may or may not have.
Hmm.
And then there's the administrative stuff. So, needless to say, there was a lot of learning, a lot of bumps, a lot of slip ups, a lot of flat, like falling and flat on my face.
Yeah.
Screwing around with clients in the sense, like, it was just so much learning, so much learning.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it because I think it has enriched my career, me as a person, 100
Hmm.
times over.
Mm.
And, and then also I get to do cool shit. So
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, you do. You do. You really do. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned something that was a similar experience that I had, and I think my very last or second to last role in corporate. Um, and it stood out to me to this day. I won't say I always tell this story, but it reminds me of a moment where when you think about the people that you report to in the corporate structure sometimes, and if you are a person that is curious
Mhm,
and you are an independent thinker,
mhm.
sometimes that way of being can get you in trouble.
Absolutely.
And one of my last, again, like my second to last job in corporate was with a consulting firm, and on my last project, and consultants get paid a lot of money, right?
Mhm,
And so I remember being on this project, and I got into it with a manager on the team, and because I had too many questions
oh, okay.
around, yeah, I had too many questions around like this particular engagement,
Yep.
and really specifically, like, just to make sure I understood like what the assignment was for me. It seemed way too simple, and I'm like, it has to be more complicated than this.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
literally what it was is there was this company that we were doing the consulting for. They were updating certain things in their bylaws or whatever it may be, and the stuff had already been updated, so it was literally taking it's embarrassing to even think about what, like, the amount of money that was being charged and what we were doing. We
We'll
were
cut that.
literally that's why I'm not saying any names because you can
Yeah,
have me jammed up. But
yeah, yeah.
they were literally asking me to look at a deck from a previous year and copy and paste all the same information into a new deck that was just a different template.
Mhm.
And for the life of me, I could not figure out why they had 8 of us on site doing this.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, wait, where's the strategy at around this? Shouldn't we be asking this question? And they were like, no, you're asking too many questions. And I'm like, well, no, no, no. And then it ended in me and the guy kind of butting heads in the middle of a meeting.
Yes.
And it then
Yes.
turned into, man, don't you ever talk to me like that in front of people, or period. And so,
That part.
but I
Yes.
was baffled at just how simple this was. And I just I could not wrap my mind around why I was doing this work. It meant nothing to me. Like, it meant
Yes.
nothing to the other people on the team. And I'm like, am I the only one that
This
see that recognize, like, this is an issue? Like, am I the one tripping? Like, so I can identify with that. I was like, this is whack. Um,
it's whack.
yeah. Yeah, it really is. It really is. But I've had a lot of other situations in corporate that taught me a lot, and some really cool people that I've come across and to this day still have good relationships with.
Yeah.
It has its place, but I understand exactly where you're coming from, for sure.
Yeah. I had some of the best relationships that I've ever built from
Yeah.
my corporate days. And
Mhm.
if anything, I mean, there's things to be learned even in the worst of situations. And
Yeah, for
those
sure.
lessons keep showing up as you evolve and get
Mm-hmm.
older or get more experience or just, just go through life. And I think that corporate definitely taught me the inner machinations of the game. And that is
Mm-hmm.
so important. I can go on and on about how different generations play the game. As a matter of fact, I do in the report, but it is
Oh yeah.
that is an education in itself of
Mm-hmm.
learning how people operate with one another in different settings
Mm-hmm.
when there's dollars on the table, when there's not dollars on the table, when there's no accountability, when there
Mm-hmm.
is multiple stakeholders, like all of these things. We are different people in as we move from room to room. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what it taught me is like, okay, okay, I see where this is coming now. Because if you're going to change something, break the system, change the system, operate within the
Mm-hmm.
system, you got to know how the system works.
Yeah. 1,000%. 1,000%. So you mentioned the report. I really want to get into it. Signal and shift. Like I said, I've read it now a few times, and I'll let you definitely give because I'm not going to even attempt to try to explain. I won't do it justice. But what I will say, actually, before I get into that, because I won't forget that thought. What was your inspiration? Like, why did you create this report? Because I think it's so timely, it's so relevant. Brands need to lean into this in a way that should be kind of the guiding force to how they do anything related to
Mhm,
marketing, branding,
mhm,
creative, whatever it may be. I mean, it's so
mhm.
insightful on so many levels, and I know you had some people that were some contributors to it, but I was blown away. And I don't say that about a whole lot of things, but I was blown away at just the thoughtfulness behind the report itself and what whether with audience like tell people about. I have kind of question.
Oh, well, thank you. I I appreciate that you appreciate the report because there are some companies and individuals out there who are producing great work. So
Mm-hmm.
at my core, I do consider myself to be a strategist, and I've done business strategy, creative strategy, all of that in the envelope of brand strategy.
Yeah.
And whether it's for an organization like a big brand, a corporate, or an agency that works with several different brands, there is there's an art to it that I think that has been dulled. I won't say lost, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's hyperbole. I think that it's been dulled because I think that
Mm-hmm.
brand strategy has turned into brand performance strategy, right? Like hitting the metrics.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, what's the engagement rate? What's, who's how many clicks a website? How many paths to purchase, intent to buy, like all of these things. And I'm not saying that we should do away with those things. We have to
Mm-hmm.
measure,
Mm-hmm.
and we measure what we care about. And I think that we've increasingly cared about the wrong things. So what has
Yeah.
happened is, like in the report, I explore this notion of hyper optimization and hyper polarization and hyper normalization. These three polar forces that are right now constructing our reality. Because again, we
Mm-hmm.
are in the weirdest of times. There's so many things. There's this political chaos going on, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
side of the fence you're on, right? I don't want to get on my soapbox, but
Right.
there's that.
Right.
There's innovation right now. Like now, I got to worry about the AI taking my job, which
Mm-hmm.
it's already doing that. We're not talking about that. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about its profound benefits, and there are benefits to it. It's here to stay, but we're not talking about the displacement and disruption that is already happening because we're so focused on
Yeah.
opportunities. And it doesn't
Right.
have to be an either or. It's an and, but you have to have a
Mm-hmm.
full fledged conversation about it. I think that there's a crushing of culture in a sense, like you
Mm-hmm.
brands and folks are extracting as much out of humans as
Mm-hmm.
much as possible. The creative outputs, the traditions, the way we express, extracting as much as you can out of that but at the same time creating this monolithic way of being, right? And
Yeah.
it floods our timelines. So it has impacted every single aspect of our lives, like, how I do my hair, to how the color I choose to put on my walls, to how I interact with people, to where I want to go on vacation, like all these things, where I want to get a job, it impacts all of that. And I think we're at a crescendo where I say this, like, reality is cracking because so many of us are going, just like you did at your last corporate job. Like, anybody knows what's going? Did he just say that? And I am paying the same amount of money. I'm paying more for a smaller bag of chips. Like, all of these things are,
Mhm.
I think, if they were spread out, they would be defensible and excusable. But when they're compacted as one
Mhm.
after the other with the other, right? Like, of all these different things, then you go, something's not right. It doesn't pass the sniff
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
So when you start to put all that together, and then just in the domain of my job, you go trends, which
Mhm.
trends only tell one part of the story. And there's great trend work out there. There's great companies that are doing trend work. And
Mhm.
we're just not asking. I find myself when I read trend reports or I look at the compendium of information out there, and it's all great. And there's some great people who are all as part of a puzzle, who are doing really great pieces of that puzzle. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to serve as an extension of that work of, we need to, number one, ask more questions, deeper questions,
Mhm.
try to find where the dots connect, and then also say, like, what's next? Like, what's actionable? Like,
Yeah.
how do we navigate this? And I do believe wholeheartedly that business can be a force for good. It doesn't have to, it's not all or nothing, right? Like, profit is amazing when you're on the receiving end of profit, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
um, but we are demanding a new way of being and transacting. And so
Mhm.
why not have brands, again, come into this conversation with people? I'm not going to call us consumers anymore, because that's just an action. That's what we do. That's not who
Yeah.
we
It's
are.
transactional. Yeah.
So it's very transactional. So come
Mm.
into conversation, understand us, so because we're understanding you. And then I hate and love the word co-create, but I use it anyway, like, and then
Mhm.
co-create. So now the brand is no longer just a standalone figure in my life that represents a bunch of things that I bought, or represents an aspiration of who I am and want to be and move. It represents a piece of my story, right?
I could
And
tell. Yeah.
no longer becomes a collection of things that I have or do or use. It
Mm.
becomes just another way of how I express along this human journey. I mean, I know that's really up here philosophical, but it's
Yeah.
the truth. At least I believe it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to report as an exploration of what that means. What does it mean?
Yeah. I One thing that stood out to me, several things stood out to me. The first thing was really the what you have kind of called the living lens framework, right? And the strategic formative intelligence system attuned to the evolving dynamics of society, technology, and culture. So when I read that, it taps directly into what the human element and people and community and audience building or whatever it may be. I don't know, blur, but to me, what you just kind of called out is now kind of that new layer that needs to exist when you start, right?
Mhm.
You know how it is as a marketer. It's usually our favorite thing to say. Like, all right, you got this person that's a CMO of this brand, a director of marketing, and they're doing this, they're doing that. But while the position and you're going after people who hold true, each of them come to the table with their own dependence,
Mhm.
influences that in
Mhm.
many ways change and really purchase and make this. Not, I, and it really hits home because you can't have the same conversation with two CMOs. It's not the same because they're bringing more to their title. They're bringing
Yep.
all this other stuff that is beneath
All the stuff.
the surface as to whether or not they decide to go with you or someone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And while I think this is where the hyper optimization has come in, we say, well, we can't, like, I can't know everything about Brian and speak to all of those aspects. I can only cherry pick a few, right? Like, I can make certain predictors about how Brian is going to show up and interact with my brand and how much he's going to spend and when he's going to spend it and how he's going to recommend it to other people based on his title, his education level, how much he makes, where he lives, his hobbies. Like, these are not predictors, right? But they are indicators. And I think marketing has moved them to predictors. And
Yeah.
and so much, in fact, that we've created, again, like this monoculture that serves those things, right? And so you go, oh yeah, okay. And I always give the example, even myself, like at the time, my oldest, was a competitive soccer player. And so
Mm-hmm.
I guess an aspect, I was a soccer mom,
Yeah.
right? But if you click down one layer, I wasn't like my peers on the soccer team because I was much younger than them. I lived in different neighborhoods. Income level was different. Educational level was the same or higher as a skew towards me. But some things, there's people are not boxes. And so I think we've
Yeah.
gotten to this point which is where the backlash is that, now it's like, okay, but I checked all the boxes. Why isn't this still not resonating? It's because people are not boxes. And so it goes, okay, so how is that a way in? So you've got brands who have been like, well, we're just going to appeal to culture and we're going to appeal to taste. And it's like, okay, well, that's a way in. But then you jack those things, right? And so then it still doesn't hit because at the end of the day, you don't care about the community or the culture, no matter what it is, right? You just want me to buy. So, what at what point does
Yeah.
that relationship get dangerous?
Yeah. Yeah. 1,000%. And you have people
Mhm.
using the culture thing, or it shows up in a race, or it shows up in like these in traditional forms, but it's a way
Yep.
of behaving like exactly what you said earlier is behavior, right? And it's behavior and its influences around how you got to where you are today and how you go about making your decisions. We grow up the same. So the things that care to
Yep.
me that I find interesting won't mean a hill means you. And even going down, like I read through all like the vectors, all like all 20 of those,
Yeah.
right? Was it was just seeing anything like it. So kudos,
Thank
in my
you.
opinion, really, it really is.
Thank you. Thank you. I read a lot, I collaborate a lot, and there are
Mm-hmm.
some really great thinkers. I look at it as, um, in addition to the conversation, right? Expansive and building upon work that's already out there. Maybe it sparks additional insight and conversation and inquiry, discovery, experimentation, that sort of thing. And so, that is I would say, because it's me, that is the culture by
Mm-hmm.
Curate way, which is making sure that number one, there's cultural intelligence injected across the board. So now it's no longer having a conversation about, um, we're targeting, African American women ages 25 to 36. No, no, ma'am, no. We're targeting people and then you look at communities, right? And it's not a nice to have, as uh, a lot of people like to refer to it. It's a mandatory. It's just marketing, right? And so it's part
Yeah.
of the conversation from the jump.
Yeah.
And then um, it's taking into all those interpersonal, social, psychosocial, um, geographical, political, all of these different components to say, okay, now we understand. And then actionable.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do now? How do we plan for what's coming down the pike? And let's scenario plan. There's that foresight and futures piece, which a lot of strategists are either they don't have the muscle memory to do that, or they've been kneecapped because it's
Mm-hmm.
like we've been taught to think in campaigns, right?
Yeah.
Like I
Right.
mentioned, Jennifer Lopez, Glow, Glow Miami, right? Like that was a campaign,
Mm-hmm.
like, to launch this. And that's that. So we think in very short term metrics as opposed to, I would say, a journey or an evolution of where this life cycle, if we have to use a marketing term, of the people that you're trying to be in community with, as opposed to
Yeah.
target audience.
But when I was at, I was like, you know what, man, this needs to be like some sort of. If you have the responsibility of working with any kind of brand, if you're a CMO, if you're a marketer, like and training against this framework, not against the framework, but using this framework, because just spot on. How can you begin to build any that's going to have any level of impact if they everything out in that report? I really.
Thank you. I'm trying. You know what? My goal with Culture Buy, because there's plenty of agencies that can work with brands and do campaigns. I can do that,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think the real um, Culture by Curate was developed to help augment brand teams or marketers or comms teams, whatever the case may be. So to support, because again, we talked about it earlier. You work your brand side, whether your client side or agency side, and your head's down working, and there's not really much room to look to your left or your right or up and down, right? Like you have to do this, and so there's not a lot of time. Brilliant people are pigeonholed into doing something very mundane.
Mm-hmm.
And which is why we get so excited when we get to do brand activations and stuff. It's like, oh my God, I get to be outside
Mm-hmm.
and I actually get to connect with the work
Talk to
becomes living and
interact with
breathing,
people. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it is so Culture by Curate is like, well, let's do this. We have the intelligence, right? So we'll build on the intelligence that's out there, right? Try to put our lens on it and make it actionable. Okay, what do you do? Like when the OECD sends out a report on the future of jobs, like
Yeah.
what does that mean? What does that 200-page report mean for now? When McKinsey puts out a report,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing, what do we do with that, right? So that is my way of saying, here's what that means, here's what you do. Then the other thing is like, let us teach what foresight and futures are, because I think we all should
Mm-hmm.
participate in foresight and scenario planning. Like what do we do
Yeah.
when like AI just says AI becomes the agency now, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? It doesn't mean it's maybe quote unquote the death of something. Death is an opportunity for something, right?
Right.
And so when you
Right.
start the scenario plan and then backcast based on that, then it becomes an exercise in imagination and
Yeah.
strategy. And that is what is so beautiful about the human brain, and is the imagination, the awe, the connection, the emotion, um, the critical analysis, like that part, the imagination.
I love it. I love it. There, there's so much more to dig into, but I want to be mindful of your time. Last part, where can people find you? I know you're pretty active on some link today. What's your website? Where can people find you? They want to work with you. Give us what you got.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'm not as active on social media as I used to be because
Enough. Yeah, I mean,
I try, but
you know,
these moods. I'm like, eh. You know,
It's a lot.
and then I'm like,
It's a
oh,
lot.
Natalie, you're a marketer.
Yeah.
Yes. You need to be here. So,
Mhm.
but yes, all my socials are Culture by Curate. So that's Culture X Curate. That's how it looks. And the website is culturebycurate.com.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, I watch all the channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and IG.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I do have all the channels. I have the TikToks and things like that. I watch it.
Okay.
I don't
Right.
participate only because there's so much to do, not because I'm old. I'm old.
No, yeah, I get it. Trust me, I get it. I get it. I get it. Well, yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know we always ask you to hop on the phone. We have another meeting tomorrow, which I'm looking forward
Yes,
to
we
as
do.
well, with
I'll
lots
be
of
talking
other
to you
stuff.
24 hours. Yes.
Yeah. But again, Natalie, I want to say thank you for taking the time to just, grace us with your presence and sharing kind of your insight, your background. I know a lot of people can get something out of it. And yeah, I just look forward to continuing to build and collaborate with you. And if there's anything you need from us, I'm here. Right. And so thank you once again.
Yeah. Thank you. Great combo.
Always, always.
Talk soon.
Well, yep. Talk soon. Well, people, that's another episode of the Heavy on Brand podcast. Again, I want to thank our special guest, Natalie Black, who has come on. And as usual, you got a chance to see what I experience. She dropped gems every time she says something. So again, hope you folks get a chance to check it out and tune in to more episodes. See you soon. If you enjoyed this episode of the Heavy on Brand podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. If you need more information on all things marketing and branding, check us out at thecarbonthread.com. Until next time, stay heavy.